send Republican consultant John Thomas, and we can now make the announcement.
Drum roll,
it is finally
please.
official. Both are CNN political commentators. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome
Very
to the
well
family.
deserved.
Yeah,
We put the fun into dysfunctional. Okay. Okay, let's just pick up where the Governor of Washington State left off. Let's listen to California's Jerry Brown reacting to this decision by Donald Trump to withdraw from the Accords.
Habitat will be destroyed. Seas will rise. Insects will spread in areas they've never been before. This is not a game. It's not politics to talk to your base. It's humanity and whether it makes it through the 21st century.
John, obviously, some very dire predictions there and some, really tough talk coming from California, Jerry Brown, who's sort of our unofficial emissary of climate change. So at the end of the day, though, is this decision by the president more about politics than science?
I mean, I think, well, first of all, there is an element of politics. Obviously, it's him fulfilling a campaign pledge. But I think the president firmly believes, how could he possibly stay on board with this climate change pact and go back to his voters who put him in office and say, it's okay, your power bills are probably going to go up 20% annually, but this is, maybe might make a difference. I don't think he can do that. He can't hurt the voters that put him in office. I just don't think he can.
So it's about politics.
Ultimately, look, I mean, he looks like the ultimate...
But it might be a maybe. There's no definitive that this is going to fix the problem.
Well, one thing he did say definitively is that this is about putting American interests first. I mean, that's what he made clear. This is about the economy. His critics say, not so fast. Take a listen.
I was elected to represent the citizens of Pittsburgh, not Paris. I promised I would exit or renegotiate any deal which fails to serve America's interests.
Hillary Clinton won the city of Pittsburgh with nearly 80% of the vote. And the values that we have in this city follow right along the lines of what the Paris Agreement stated, and we're already following those goals.
Dave, some political watchers say this is the president acting like a typical businessman, putting short-term gains above anything else.
I think it's a bigly mistake by the president, by the renegade president, I should call him. I mean, look, if you're going to put America first, you need a seat at the table on the international stage, and this is ejecting the United States from that conversation. And if he's a businessman, then he cares about supply and demand, right? And that's why we've got sort of this growing, clean, new energy, green job-driven economy where you've got wind, you've got solar exploding within the U.S. economy, and you've got coal jobs that ultimately are only about 55,000 all across the country. You've got less people working in coal than you do at Arby's restaurant. And so I think what this underscores is the fact that people are moving towards a clean energy economy. We saw that today with business leaders from Facebook to LinkedIn to Google taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times today calling on the president not to pull out of this agreement. So I think it undercuts his argument that he's a savvy business leader.
Okay, well, let's talk about jobs, because that was a very big issue during this speech in the Rose Garden by the president. He actually didn't talk about denying climate change, so people saw that as progress. But the main argument was that that this accord is essentially will cost American jobs. It's a job killer. Listen to what the president had to say.
Even if the Paris Agreement were implemented in full, with total compliance from all nations, it is estimated it would only produce a 0.2 of 1 degree. Think of that. This much Celsius reduction in global temperature by the year 2100. Tiny, tiny amount. Compliance with the terms of the Paris Accord and the onerous energy restrictions that is placed on the United States could cost America as much as 2.7 million lost jobs by 2025, according to the National Economic Research Associates.
Okay, so this is one of the problems a lot of people have, is that this is just not accurate information. Those numbers come from a study funded by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the American Council of Capital Formation. Both opposed the Paris deal. And even that study comes with a footnote which reads, the study does not take into account potential benefits from avoided emissions. The model does not take into consideration yet to be developed technologies that might influence the long-term cost, to say nothing, essentially, of all the jobs that are created in renewable energies. So, this is information which, the president is putting out there, which is misleading at best.
This is emblematic of the president's entire term since he's been in office. We've seen falsehood after falsehood after falsehood, stemming from the inception of his presidency, where he lied about the crowd size at his inauguration. But I think largely, look, if you look at states like California, for example, you had Governor Brown on earlier, where the state Senate earlier today passed, or this week, pardon me, passed a clean energy bill calling for 100% renewable energy in the state by 2045. I mean, California is the 6th largest economy in the world. It's bigger than Italy, and we're moving in the direction of clean energy, renewable energy jobs. And so I think what that underscores is the fact that there's real movement that's driven by the private sector here.
No, it's actually the movement that the government's forcing. I think that's the distinction. Trump and his administration don't want the government picking winners and losers, whether that's industries or whatnot. If it evolves towards clean and green, that's fine if the private sector chooses to do that. But he doesn't believe the federal government or the world's nations should force an economy in one direction or the other.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about some other news that's taking place. As we just mentioned at the top of the show, that the president is going to appeal the travel ban to the Supreme Court. Your reaction to that and the timing of this? Is this the president, feeling good about himself because obviously they've decided to pull out of the Paris deal? How do you see it?
I think he's trying to divert attention from the pulling out of the Paris deal, number one. Number two, look, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. This has already been shot down multiple times by federal justices, so I don't see any change. And this isn't like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back dynamic, where Donald Trump did just appoint or nominate, pardon me, Gorsuch, pardon me, to the Supreme Court. But I don't know that that's necessarily going to translate to a victory for Donald Trump after he's been shot down so many times.
It's not. It might not translate to a victory. I mean, he's taking a gamble there, but he's being consistent. He said he would take it to the Supreme Court when he kept getting rejected by those lower court judges. So, look, it just was the natural course of things. Of course, he wanted to get Gorsuch confirmed. Without that, there'd be no shot at it. And so
you don't think Gorsuch means he'll have a better chance of getting this through? Or
no, he certainly will with Gorsuch, but I just don't think it's not guaranteed.
And then he loses, then what, if that is indeed the case?
Well, that's it.
It's over. No, I know that's it, but I mean for him, in terms of his credibility.
It's a massive black eye on this ban, absolutely. It has to pass for his political capital.
Okay, we'll see what happens. CNN political commentators, Dave Jacobson, John Thomas.
Pleasure.
Good to see you.
Those ties are looking extra fine tonight.
Yeah. Glowing. Okay, so let's go back to the Paris Climate Accords. Mr. Trump finds himself with few allies among business leaders around the world. There was a letter urging the president to stay in the agreement. There it is. It appeared in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal on Thursday, signed by 25 of the world's most valuable companies. Other CEOs expressed disappointment as well with the announcement. Others even decided to actually leave the president's business advisory council. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk tweeted, departing presidential councils, climate change is real. Leaving Paris is not good for America or the world. The Disney CEO Robert Iger said, as a matter of principle, I've resigned from the president's council over the Paris Agreement withdrawal.
Well, General Electric CEO Jeff Immelt tweeted this, disappointed with today's decision on the Paris Agreement. Climate change is real. Industry must now lead and not depend on government. And from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, we believe climate change is an urgent issue that demands global action. We remain committed to doing our part.
Okay, we will take a short break. When we come back, the Russian President Vladimir